Well, welcome everybody. Really excited to be here today, talking to you about how you can really harness the power of Gen Z, support them in your organizations so they can be really successful from day one. So we know that these are the group that are ultimately going to be the next leaders of your organizations over the next couple of decades. So it really makes sense that we are putting in time and effort to understand who they are in our organizations and how we can get the most out of them. So, Jenny, did you want to jump in and kick off with a little introduction? That'd be great.
Thanks, Neave. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny Fitzgerald-O'Connor, and I'm Head of Learning and Development UK here at Amberjack. I'm really passionate about supporting clients to design programs for their early talent cohorts that are really going to deliver on your objectives, both in terms of supporting your cohorts at the start of their careers on their learning and development journey to be ultimately the best they can be, as well as ensuring that commercially your objectives as an organisation are met and your early talent are performing at the level you're expecting. I think the important thing to remember is that every early talent development programme is different. The support each individual needs are different. And we always start with understanding what you're looking to achieve and then using our expertise and knowledge of Gen Z and ultimately your cohort to build out a really meaningful programme.
My name is Neave. I'm the Learning and Development Delivery Manager at Amberjack. So my role is to really kind of design out, shape and also deliver our learning and development programs. So really getting that interaction with Gen Z every single day, which is really exciting. So Jenny, should we kick off with a bit of an introduction around who Amberjack are and maybe why we are so suited to be talking about this topic today?
Absolutely. Thanks, Neave. So like Bright Network, we work with Gen Z day in, day out. We meet and speak to hundreds of candidates every day and take them through the first few years of their careers. We help them understand what they do, support them through a face-valid recruitment process that we can design, and then post-securing that offer, we design workshops, as Neave said, and programs that realise your cohort's great potential. We can take them on a journey and develop them into the next generation of leaders. And it's this that we're really passionate about, and how we support Gen Z to be the best they can be is really what we wanted to talk to you about today. So in today's session, we hear day in, day out from our clients that Gen Z are coming into your organizations with a skills gap. But I wonder if we've ever really stopped to think about why. And what we wanted to do today was really tackle the question head on and consider which skills Gen Z might be lacking and why this might be. We're hoping that you'll leave our session with a bit more insight into what makes this group an amazing group of adults embarking on their careers. When Neave and I speak to clients, we often hear about what they're lacking, their faults, what they need to do better. And we really want to harness their power and potential and also look at their strengths. We'll look at what they're not doing so well, but this is a generation that we know are really keen to learn and improve if they're supported in the right way. So we want to take you on that journey and understand what we can do to support them in doing this.
Absolutely, Jenny. I think it's a really great point that we do spend a lot of time thinking about how who Gen Z are, but actually, do we stop and consider all of those positive things that they actually bring to the workplace? So what you're seeing here on our screen is a mentee that was collated from our session at Bright Network. And what we asked them was, actually, what skills do Gen Z bring to their workplaces? And as you can see, it's been flooded with some really positive words here. So creativity, ambition, I love that one. Fresh ideas. I think we often think about new perspectives coming into the workplace, and Gen Z are really equipped to bring that with them. So all of these words of positivity is something we wanted to kick off today's session with, all of those positive thoughts, but also start thinking a little bit around how we might bridge that gap with the skills gaps that we are seeing, but also celebrate what they do bring and really kind of leverage those strengths that they're bringing to the workplace as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Neave. And as we said before, we often hear about organisations wanting to understand Gen Z, and as part of the conversation that Neave and I have really frequently with our clients, we hear what skills Gen Z are lacking, as I mentioned before, and what skills, and we kind of discuss, what as part of that, what skills are really most important in your organizations? What do the hiring managers expect? What do they want to see on day one? And it's really evident that there are these gaps, and something that we talk about a lot is, how we can help bridge these gaps. So taking a look at the question we just asked you, it's clear to see that Gen Z employees add so much value to your workplace, as Neave said. It's important that we also recognise what they bring, the power they have, and how we might need to focus on their existing skill strengths as well as those that are lacking. We've been very fortunate to work with Bright Network on a range of events recently. And Neave, I know you've been supporting graduates with preparing themselves for the Bright Network Festival and promoting confidence when it comes to networking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think networking is a really key point. We have been very lucky, very fortunate to be supporting Bright Network with some of those recent events. But also, as you know, we talk to Gen Z every day, and what we hear is that virtual networking is something that comes a lot easier to them. So they really understand that importance of building their own network, and also connecting online and looking for role models in their field. That is something that comes really easy to them. It's a really key skill to have, and a lot of our development sessions, a lot of clients are picking networking as one of their module selections. And I think probably what we're seeing is the reason why Gen Z are so fantastic at networking is because it derives from them being these digital natives. So they've grown up in that social age, and therefore it's probably where they feel most comfortable. Being their best self as well, I think, is something we talk around a lot in our development sessions. But actually what we see is Gen Z are unapologetically themselves. They love and crave that authenticity in the workplace, and they truly understand who they are and the value that they bring to any organization. So through our workshops like personal branding, we really help Gen Z uncover the qualities that they bring, and that legacy that they want to create. So it's so wonderful to see all of these wonderful positives coming in and seeing so many self-assured young people. And Jenny, I think to your probably your area, your skills, if you like, something we also love to see Gen Z bring into the workplace is that desire to foster diversity and inclusion, isn't it? And this, I think it's almost become a little bit of an expectation now that D&I strategies are kind of forefront and kind of front and central of any organisation that Gen Z look to join. Do you find that? Do you find that it's become more of an expectation now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to ensure all development programs allow for diversity and inclusion, and inclusion should be embedded throughout all program design, and should never just be a one-off workshop to tick the box. Development programs should naturally flow on from attraction, recruitment, and selection. And for many years now, D&I has been top of the list in terms of recruitment and selection strategies, processes where D&I should underpin attraction messaging, assessment design. In that same vein, it should be consistent through any development program.
Absolutely. And I think what we see on that mentee that we showed you on the previous slide, and these skills that we've got on the slide at the moment, is that these skills do just scratch the surface. But I think we need to think about kind of why is it that Gen Z understand the importance of all of these skills in the workplace? They feel that they've got these great skills such as resilience, but actually our clients are still saying they've got a bit of a skills gap. So I think we need to think about maybe why that is. Is it that when our clients come and say to us, actually, there's a little bit of a lack of interpersonal skills, about a lack of professional confidence, if you like, professional communication skills. Have we ever stopped and considered why? And I think this is a really key conversation about kind of meeting in the middle. I think a lot of the time we talk a lot around what do Gen Z need to do to get to where we need them? But actually, how are we meeting in the middle? What do employers need to do to meet Gen Z and really get on the same page? And I think it's a great time to kind of talk around that. A few explanations, maybe, Jenny, as to why that could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we hear a lot from our Gen Z board and community that they're battling with imposter syndrome. I'm sure many of us also experience it frequently. We work in these multi-generational, hybrid, matrix, forever restructuring organizations, and the world is a very volatile and uncertain place. And so, we need to provide a platform, a launchpad for learning and developing them that's really resonating with them, where they feel understood, they feel safe, they feel encouraged to take calculated risks and to push themselves out of their comfort zones, knowing that it is okay to fail and to bounce back stronger, and sharing real live examples of when people have done this within your own organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said earlier, but I think we find that Gen Z have that natural ability to network virtually. But what we didn't actually touch on is in-person networking. And Gen Z, we know, have grown up in this social environment. And as we said, are digital natives, if you like. They are fantastic at writing LinkedIn posts, conveying learnings from events and training sessions, what their key takeaways were. But what we don't see is that what we do see is that they maybe don't have that ability to translate that confidence to in-person discussions. They have that confidence online because that's where they're comfortable. But actually striking up a conversation at an in-person event is really daunting. I don't think we should shy away from that. Something that I supported a lot of students with at our Bright Network events is just tips on plucking up the confidence to have a conversation with an employer downstairs in their networking spaces. So what we're seeing is in-person networking is actually really quite difficult for them. And I think as well, communication differences. If we think about the way that Gen Z have grown up, they've grown up around instant messaging, social media, and maybe they've always had these options of communication. Do they pick up the phone and have that difficult conversation, or do they actually just send a quick message? Do you video call them? All of these options that maybe previous generations didn't actually have. I remember very vividly having to go through that horrible but very necessary moment where you want to speak to your friend, so you call the house phone and their parents answer first, and you have to go through that almost formalized communication with their parents before you even get to speak to your friend. So we never had as many options as Gen Z have. So is it any wonder that we've got this communication difference? We've got this kind of lack of confidence when it comes to telephone skills, when it comes to in-person communication, having difficult conversations in person, and maybe some professionalism around that as well. Jenny, I think I love your example that you give about kind of the way people now tend to schedule in time to call people.
Yeah, I think we even see it now, don't we? As Neave said, we tend to book a time in to call. We rarely get phone calls on our mobile anymore, just out of the blue, and that hasn't been scheduled in. And if people do call unannounced, they're so apologetic. Yeah, I can certainly remember the time when we all had phones on our desks and we didn't know who was going to be calling. We didn't know who was at the other end of the phone. So I still prefer to call than to email and to build that personal connection. But clearly, Gen Z just aren't used to doing this. So is it any wonder, I suppose, that interpersonal skills and in-person communication is something that you're seeing a lack of confidence and professionalism in? Graduates are walking into this alien environment where professional is all about telephone etiquette, it's about meeting etiquette, and in reality, throughout their lives, they've never really had to learn this skill. So as a result, they are in workplaces clearly feeling a lack of confidence. They're comparing themselves to others that are already in the organization. And perhaps we're not seeing the wonderful skills that Gen Z can bring because they're suffering with imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely, Jenny. I think as well, just to mention, I think it's not when we discuss this topic, it's certainly not it's not a fault of Gen Z that they don't have these skills. We know that skills and experiences are built up from exposure. So, if, like we said, if throughout their childhood, throughout growing up, they're not exposed to these things, actually it's not a shock that that when they get into the workplace that they are struggling with it. So I think when we look at the statistics on this slide in particular, the highest listed categories kind of that came out of our own research here all relate to confidence and success. So if we look at meeting expectations there, which is sitting around 42%, this links really heavily to fear of failure. So a really key component of imposter syndrome. Meeting people, 26%. It might not seem like a great percentage, but actually it all comes back to that lack of confidence in communicating, feeling uncomfortable, feeling that ambiguity maybe as well. Having relevant skills and experience, sitting at 59% there. This links again to that fear of failure, maybe comparison to others who maybe have those other skills, maybe seemingly more competent than they are. So what we're seeing from this research here is that all of it is linking back to really common themes of imposter syndrome. And what I see at every kind of event and talk that I do is that imposter syndrome really resonates, but is rarely discussed in a professional setting. And actually, in reality, as Jenny said, we all experience this. So why are we not addressing it? Why are we not talking about this openly with our Gen Z employees and making them feel at ease a little bit more? So I think it poses that question of how do we help Gen Z to have that confidence in the workplace, to show off all of these wonderful skills that are there, but maybe haven't been brought to the surface because they've not had that exposure and experience. How do we get them to believe in their skill set and try and help them banish this imposter syndrome a little bit?
I think there are really three key areas to answer that question, Neave. And I think, relatable being number one. Gen Z love relatable content and relationships. Make sure your Gen Z employees know that you suffer from imposter syndrome, as well as appreciate that comparison to others is something that has been inescapable for Gen Z, social media being the number one reason for this and driver for this comparison. They unfortunately will doubt their abilities in a professional environment, but how do we empower them to feel more confident and to be able to perform at their best and realize their potential?
Absolutely. I think it's something I always go back to is setting the tone, so setting those expectations. Are your senior leaders even sharing those failure stories or sharing that it's okay to fail? A really large part of imposter syndrome is thinking as though people don't make mistakes around you. So how can we set the tone for Gen Z walking into the workplace is a really good point. So making a safe space for that mistake making. I think we've probably all heard of a growth mindset, something that we keep coming back to in our own development sessions with our graduates, because part of learning is failing. So letting them know that failure is part of the process and you will be there to support them through it is a really lovely point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think finally, investing in their confidence, giving your Gen Z employees time and space to learn and to showcase their skills is going to make them feel more empowered and more confident. Development workshops specifically that allow group connection, that have time for reflection on their skills and experiences they've been through, and allow them to connect it back to the workplace, are going to make them feel confident and empowered by the skills that they really do have. You will get the most out of your Gen Z group if they feel invested in, if they feel confident, and if they feel inspired to succeed by those around them.
Absolutely. And I think something I love to design into our workshops is that opportunity for celebration of achievement, celebration of growth, but also celebration of mistakes. So we talk a lot around growth mindset, keep coming back to this, because we want our workshops to feel as though it's a space where they can reflect on their achievements, kind of, think about their challenges, showcase their strengths as well. And as you said, Jenny, that's the way we're going to develop that confidence, is by shouting about our strengths, but also those small wins that we're going through as well. So really making sure that we're developing that confidence in a structured program, but also outside of it as well, outside of that of the program and in their own roles. And it's something I'm really proud of at Amberjack is that we do much more than just deliver workshops. We always come back to something called learning beyond. There we go, learning beyond the workshop, and this is something I'm really proud of in that we do. So Jenny, did you want to explain a little bit more around that?
Yeah, exactly. They aren't just standalone single workshops that you can lift and shift and are applicable to any organization. We really take pride in making sure that they're bespoke, they're relevant, and want to make sure that above all else, learning is being embedded, because after all, that's the reason why you're putting your graduates through and early talent through these programs, and that and this is done through the way in which we design our learning programs. So we very much take a themed approach to learning with workshops that are linked. This allows for content to be revisited beyond the workshop and allows that maximum transfer of learning to the workplace and higher return on investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Connection is a really big thing when it comes to learning beyond the workshop. So learning in small groups with other Gen Z learners is a really lovely point. So making sure that they have space to learn from each other, share those experiences, share those failure stories as well, is a really nice thing to add to your development program. We run quite a few kind of, larger global programs, and building that connection in this space is really important for that. So making sure that we have lots of touch points that build on connection as well. Line managers, we know the importance and the kind of the implications for success of a development program are very closely connected to the investment that line managers show. So how do we set them up for success? We often run manager briefing sessions that really set the tone for the program, set expectations between the manager and the graduates as well, but also getting your managers invested in your program is more than just running a manager briefing. It's about continuation of that. So how do we make sure that we are continually touching base with our managers? We often run community of practice sessions with our line managers, making sure that we're touching base. What struggles are they going with? How can we make sure that we're creating a safe space for managers in the same way that we do our graduates? And then lastly, reflection and continuous development. So what we want to do is continually come back to learning, reflecting on those wins, those challenges, and kind of almost failing together in that workshop safe space is really important.
Thanks, Neave. I think, what did we set out to achieve? We really wanted you to leave this session today with some key takeaways that you could easily go away and think about and implement in your own organizations. Imposter syndrome is real. We need to create a safe space for learning. We need to make sure our early talent cohorts understand what their development programs look like, why they're being given these sessions, what our expectations are, and what we're supporting them to achieve, so that they can be the best people that they can. Recognize that it really is all about developing their potential, so focusing on their strengths and really building this confidence. And that will be made much easier providing safe spaces for them to learn, share experiences, work in groups, and feedback their learnings, and then take that away and implement it in their day-to-day roles with a supportive line manager. And that is all creating this interconnected and holistic learning journey. So I mentioned earlier, we're not looking really to just design one-off workshops. We can do this to complement programs that you might have internally, but our development programs are linked, and we very much take this themed approach to learning, so that each theme has its space to have a workshop, have that pre-learning, post-learning, so that you have that maximum return on investment that is really difficult to measure from a development program, but this is certainly a way that you can make sure that return on investment will be at its highest. So it's been great speaking to you all today. Hope you found that session really useful. If you've got any questions at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch with Neave or I. Be more than happy to have a conversation, answer any questions that you've got. But hopefully that provided some useful insights. Thank you.